The sunset painted the sky in shades of coral and gold as Elena Vasquez stood in the bridal suite of the Grandview Resort, her hands trembling slightly as she smoothed the silk of her wedding gown. The dress was exquisite, custom Vera Wang with delicate lace detailing that had cost more than her annual salary as a freelance graphic designer. 3 months ago, she never would have imagined wearing something so expensive, let alone marrying Marcus Dane. Elena studied her reflection in the full-length mirror. Dark hair swept into an elegant updo, makeup applied by professionals who'd made her look like a version of herself she barely recognized, polished, sophisticated, belonging to a world she'd only glimpsed from the outside. The diamond necklace Marcus had given her that morning caught the fading light, each stone probably worth more than her childhood home. Her phone buzzed with a message from her younger brother, Carlos. "You saved us, Elena. Dad's business, everything. We'll never forget what you did." Elena's throat tightened. That was why she was here, wasn't it? Her father's architecture firm had been drowning in debt after a disastrous project and predatory loan. When Marcus Dane had appeared at one of her gallery showings 6 weeks ago, charming and attentive, it had seemed like fate. He'd commissioned her for design work, taken her to dinners where he'd listened to her dreams of opening an arts education center. When he'd proposed after a month of courtship, explaining that he valued her creativity and wanted a partner who understood aesthetics and design for his hotel empire, she'd been cautiously hopeful. Her father had been ecstatic when Marcus's lawyers proposed a business merger alongside the marriage. The Dane Corporation would absorb the Vasquez firm's debt and provide capital for expansion. Elena had told herself it was romantic, that Marcus saw value in her family, that his efficiency was just his personality. Now, standing in this beautiful prison of a bridal suite, Elena wondered if she'd been lying to herself all along. The door opened and Marcus entered, still wearing his tailored charcoal tuxedo. He looked like he'd stepped from a magazine, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair styled perfectly and gray-green eyes that had once seemed warm but now felt distant. He closed the door behind him and stood there, regarding her with an expression she couldn't read. "Elena." His voice was measured, controlled. "We need to talk." Something in his tone made her stomach drop. This wasn't how wedding nights were supposed to begin. "Is something wrong?" Marcus moved to the window, his back to her, silhouetted against the darkening sky. "I want to be clear about the nature of our arrangement. I think there may have been some misunderstanding during our courtship." "Arrangement?" Elena's voice came out smaller than she intended. He turned to face her, and the coldness in his expression made her breath catch. This wasn't the man who'd smiled at her across candlelit dinners, who'd held her hand during the ceremony just hours ago. This was someone else entirely, someone stripped of pretense. "This marriage serves a specific purpose," Marcus said with clinical precision. "Your father needed capital to prevent his firm's bankruptcy. I needed connections to the architectural and design network he's built over 25 years, particularly for my expansion into boutique hotel developments. We both got what we needed." Each word landed like a physical blow. Elena felt her knees weaken, and she gripped the back of the nearby chair to steady herself. "But you said, during dinner last month, you said you admired my artistic vision. You said we could build something beautiful together." "I said what needed to be said." Marcus loosened his tie with sharp, efficient movements. "I hope you understand the reality now. You'll have everything you could want materially, this penthouse in Chicago, unlimited accounts, whatever you need for your comfort. In return, you'll attend events when required, maintain appearances for business purposes, and not complicate things with unrealistic expectations." Elena's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. The massive diamond on her finger suddenly felt like a shackle, cold and heavy. Her mind raced back through their whirlwind courtship. Had it all been calculated? Every compliment, every seemingly genuine conversation about her dreams of teaching art to underprivileged children? "I have work to review before tomorrow's board meeting." Marcus picked up his laptop bag from the desk, his movements brisk and businesslike. "The master bedroom is yours. I'll use the guest suite. We fly back to Chicago tomorrow at 10. Try to get some rest. The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than a slam. Elena stood frozen, the fairy tale she'd barely allowed herself to believe in dissolving like watercolor in rain. She caught sight of herself in the mirror across the room, a stranger in an expensive dress, dark eyes wide with shock and gathering tears, looking utterly lost. Her phone buzzed again. Her best friend, Sophia, how's married life? Tell me everything. So happy for you. Elena's hands shook as she typed back a simple heart emoji, unable to form words that would explain what had just happened. How could she tell anyone? Her family was celebrating. Her father had cried with relief when the merger was finalized. Her mother had called this morning saying Elena had saved them all. She was the price. She'd sold herself for her family's survival, and she hadn't even known she was for sale. Elena sank onto the edge of the massive bed, still wearing her wedding gown, and let the tears come. Through the window, she could see couples walking along the resort's beach, holding hands, stealing kisses, living the romance she'd thought would be hers. The cruelty of it cut deeper than Marcus's cold words, not just that he didn't love her, but that he'd made her believe he might, had let her hope before crushing it completely. The weeks that followed back in Chicago passed in a fog of luxury and isolation. The penthouse apartment on the Gold Coast was stunning, all floor-to-ceiling windows with breathtaking views of Lake Michigan, modern furnishings that looked like art installations, space that felt more like a showroom than a home. Marcus was rarely there, leaving before dawn and returning after midnight. When their paths crossed, he was polite but distant, treating her with the same professional courtesy he might show a business associate. No warmth, no intimacy, barely any acknowledgement that she existed beyond her role as his wife in name only. Elena tried to fill her days. She explored Chicago's museums, walked through neighborhoods she'd never visited, set up a small studio in one of the spare rooms where she could work on her graphic design projects. But everything felt hollow, performed for an audience of one who wasn't watching. The loneliness was worse than anything she'd experienced, an aching emptiness that no amount of material comfort could fill. It was during a particularly aimless walk through Lincoln Park that Elena passed the Northside Community Center. A faded sign advertised free art classes for children, after-school programs, and community events. On impulse, she walked inside. The building was old but well-maintained, filled with the sounds of children laughing and the smell of tempera paint and Play-Doh. A woman in her 50s with warm brown eyes and graying hair looked up from the reception desk. "Can I help you?" "I'm not sure," Elena admitted. "I just saw the sign." "What kind of programs do you run?" The woman, who introduced herself as Patricia Morales, explained the center's mission to serve low-income families in the neighborhood. As she talked, something stirred in Elena's chest, the first genuine feeling she'd experienced since her wedding night. When Patricia mentioned they'd had to cancel their children's art program due to lack of volunteers, Elena heard herself say, "I could teach that class." Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Do you have experience?" "I have a degree in graphic design and fine arts. I've been doing freelance work for years, but I've always wanted to teach." Elena paused. "I was planning to open an arts education center before my life took a different direction." Patricia studied her with eyes that seemed to see more than Elena had revealed. "We can't pay much. $75 per session, twice a week." Elena almost laughed. She had a credit card with no limit sitting in her designer purse, access to wealth she'd never imagined. But $75 she'd actually earned felt more valuable than all of Marcus's money. "When can I start?" That first class changed everything. 12 children, ranging from 6 to 12 years old, arrived with varying degrees of enthusiasm. Some had never held a paintbrush before. Elena taught them basic techniques, encouraging experimentation, celebrating their unique perspectives. She watched their faces transform as blank paper became expressions of their imagination, as uncertainty became pride. "This is my family," said Matteo, a 7-year-old showing his painting of stick figures holding hands. "We're all together and we're happy." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "It's beautiful, Matteo. Art helps us show what's in our hearts." As weeks turned into months, Elena's classes became the center of her existence. She arrived early, stayed late, learned the names and stories of every child who walked through the doors. She helped their parents too, teaching a single mother how to create a portfolio for college applications, showing a teenager techniques that could help him get into art school. She started dressing differently. The designer clothes Marcus's assistant had filled the closet with stayed hanging untouched. Elena wore jeans, comfortable blouses, sneakers suitable for sitting on floors. With children. She pulled her hair into practical ponytails, stopped wearing elaborate makeup. The woman in the mirror began to look familiar again, like someone she'd known before but had temporarily lost. She also opened a separate bank account at a small credit union, depositing her teaching income. It was tiny compared to what she had access to through Marcus, but it was hers. Money she'd earned through work that mattered, that fed her soul. Marcus noticed, though he said nothing at first. Occasionally he'd come home to find her in the penthouse kitchen, practicing art techniques she planned to teach, the apartment smelling of acrylic paint instead of the sterile nothing it usually held. Once she caught him watching her work, something flickering across his features too quickly to identify before his usual mask of indifference returned. "You paint?" he observed. "It's what I do," Elena replied without looking up from the canvas. "It's who I am." "I meant here. At home." "This isn't a home, Marcus. It's where I sleep between the parts of my day that actually matter." The words were sharp, sharper than she'd intended, but they felt good. For months she'd swallowed her hurt, played the compliant wife who asked for nothing. But something was shifting inside her, a backbone being forged through the simple act of doing work that had purpose. Marcus's jaw tightened. He left without another word, but Elena noticed he'd paused in the doorway, looking back at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Something was changing. Elena could feel it in the air between them, in the way Marcus's indifference seemed less certain, in the way her own confidence grew with each class she taught, each child she helped believe in themselves. She was becoming someone again. Not Marcus Dane's convenient wife, but Elena Vasquez, artist, teacher, woman discovering her own strength. And for the first time since that devastating wedding night, she allowed herself to imagine a future that she might actually want to live in. The breakthrough came 5 months into the marriage during a Friday afternoon class. Elena was teaching her students about color theory, watching them experiment with mixing paints, when Patricia appeared in the doorway with an unexpected visitor. The man was in his mid-30s, casually dressed in khakis and a button-down shirt, with sandy brown hair and warm hazel eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He radiated a gentle confidence that immediately put Elena at ease. "Elena, this is Daniel Wright," Patricia said. "He runs the Wright Foundation for Arts Education. He's been funding several of our programs." "Nice to meet you," Elena said, wiping paint from her hands. "Your foundation does incredible work." "Actually, I came to see your work," Daniel replied, his smile widening. "Patricia's been telling me about your classes. The impact you're having on these kids is remarkable." Elena felt herself blushing. "They're amazing students. I'm just giving them tools to express themselves." "She's being modest," interrupted Jasmine, one of her most talented students. "Miss Elena makes us believe we can do anything. She says art isn't about being perfect, it's about being brave." Daniel's expression grew thoughtful. "That's exactly the philosophy we're looking for. Elena, could we talk after your class? I have a proposition that might interest you." An hour later, they sat in Patricia's small office, steaming coffee between them. Daniel explained that the Wright Foundation was opening a new arts education center in Portland, Oregon. The facility would offer free classes to children from disadvantaged backgrounds, connecting them with mentorship and opportunities they wouldn't otherwise have access to. We need a director, Daniel said, leaning forward with genuine enthusiasm. Someone who understands both the technical side of art and the human side of teaching children who've been told they don't matter. Patricia showed me videos of your classes. The way you connect with these kids, the way you make them feel seen, that's incredibly rare. Elena's heart raced. I'm honored, but I should be honest. My circumstances are complicated. I'm married to Marcus Dane. The hotel developer, Daniel nodded. I did some research after Patricia mentioned your married name. That's actually why I wanted to speak with you directly. This position would require relocation to Portland. It comes with a salary of $90,000 annually, plus housing assistance and full benefits. I need to know if that's something your situation would allow. $90,000. It was a fraction of what Elena had access to as Marcus's wife, but it represented something infinitely more valuable: independence earned through her own merit. An apartment in Portland would be hers because she worked for it. The title of director would be hers because she'd proven capable. Can I think about it? Elena asked, her mind spinning with possibilities. Of course. I'll need an answer within 2 weeks. We're hoping to launch the program in 6 weeks. That evening, Elena returned to the penthouse later than usual, her portfolio filled with her students' artwork and her head filled with visions of Portland. She found Marcus in the living room, which was unusual enough to be startling. He sat on the leather sofa with a glass of whiskey, still wearing his suit though he'd removed the tie. He looked up when she entered, and something in his expression was different, less controlled, almost vulnerable. Where were you? The question came out sharper than perhaps he'd intended. Elena set down her bag. Teaching. Then talking with someone about a job opportunity. A job? Marcus stood abruptly. You don't need a job, Elena. Your job. Not mine. Your money, not mine. Your life, not mine. That's absurd. As my wife. As your wife, I'm a business arrangement, Elena interrupted, her voice steady despite the anger rising in her chest. You made that exceptionally clear on our wedding night. You want to know where I was? I was doing something that matters. Teaching children that they have value, that they can create something beautiful. I was being someone other than Marcus Dane's convenient wife. Marcus's face had gone pale. Is this about that community center? It's about me finding out who I am when I'm not defined by you. Elena moved toward the bedroom, then paused. And for what it's worth, someone sees value in what I do. Enough to offer me a position running an arts education center in Portland. Portland? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. You're thinking of leaving? I'm thinking of living, Marcus. Maybe for the first time in 5 months. She closed the bedroom door before he could respond, her hands shaking with adrenaline. Through the wood, she heard silence, then the sound of glass hitting a wall. Elena pressed her palm against the door, feeling a strange satisfaction. For the first time since their wedding night, she'd made Marcus Dane feel something other than indifference. It wasn't love, but it was real. And real, Elena was learning, was something she could work with. Over the next week, Daniel called twice more. The first time to send her detailed information about the Portland position, photographs of the new facility, curriculum outlines, testimonials from families in similar programs they'd funded. The second time to introduce her over video call to the Foundation's board, who asked thoughtful questions about her teaching philosophy and vision for the program. Elena found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone except her students. She talked about art as a tool for empowerment, about how creativity could help children process trauma and build confidence. The board members listened with genuine interest, and by the end of the call, she could see in their faces that they wanted her. We'd be lucky to have you, Daniel said after the call ended and it was just the two of them on screen. I hope you'll seriously consider this, Elena. Portland is beautiful, and I think you'd thrive there. There was something in his tone, something warm and respectful that made Elena's heart skip. Daniel Wright saw her, not as someone's wife, not as a convenient business asset, but as a talented educator worthy of respect and opportunity. "Thank you," she said softly. "For seeing me." Daniel's smile was gentle. "You're not hard to see, Elena. You shine." Marcus was waiting when she ended the call. He stood in the doorway of her studio, and for once, he looked uncertain. "I heard you talking," he said. "The Portland job. Are you seriously considering it?" "Yes." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Daniel Wright is offering me a real opportunity. Something I've earned, something that matters. I could fund a program like that here," Marcus said, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. "You could run it, have complete control. Whatever budget you need. With your money." Elena shook her head. "Don't you see? It would still be yours. Every student would see me as the billionaire's wife playing at charity, not as someone who actually understands their struggles. What does it matter whose money it is if the work gets done? It matters because I need to know I'm capable of something beyond being rescued." Elena's voice cracked slightly. "It matters because every accomplishment would have an asterisk next to it, wife of Marcus Dane. I need to know who Elena Vasquez is when she's not defined by you." Marcus looked away, jaw clenched. "And Daniel Wright? What's his role in this?" "He's offering me professional respect and an opportunity I've earned on my own merit." Elena paused, studying her husband's face. "Why do you care, Marcus? You wanted a business arrangement. That's what we have." "That's what I thought I wanted." Marcus's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "But watching you these past months, seeing you come alive teaching those kids, seeing you stop trying to fit into my world and create your own," he stopped, struggling with words. "I've been lying to myself about what this marriage is." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know anymore." Marcus finally met her eyes, and the vulnerability there shocked her. "I'm saying that somewhere between planning this marriage as a transaction and watching you become someone I didn't expect, things got complicated. I'm saying the thought of you in Portland with Daniel Wright makes me want to destroy something. That's not love, Marcus. That's possession. Maybe I don't know the difference." He moved closer, and Elena could smell his cologne, could see the shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "But I'm willing to learn if you'll give me a chance." Before Elena could respond, Marcus closed the distance between them. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone with unexpected gentleness. "Let me try," he whispered. "Let me show you I can be more than the cold bastard who hurt you on our wedding night." Elena's breath caught. Part of her, the part that had grown up believing in fairy tales and redemption, wanted to believe him. But she'd spent 5 months learning to trust herself, to value her own judgment. "One chance," she heard herself say. "But Marcus, if this is just about not wanting someone else to have me." He kissed her before she could finish, and it was nothing like the brief, formal kiss they'd shared at their wedding. This was desperate and passionate, his hands tangling in her hair, her fingers gripping his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "Stay," Marcus murmured against her lips. "Stay and let me prove this is real." Elena pulled back, looking into his eyes, searching for truth. "Show me, then. Show me you see me as more than a convenient wife. Show me you value what I do." "How?" His hand still framed her face. "Tell me how and I'll do it." "Come to my class," Elena said. "Tomorrow. Come see what matters to me." Not as Marcus Dane checking on his wife's hobby, but as someone who wants to understand. Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay. I'll be there." The next day, Marcus appeared at the community center in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, the most casual Elena had ever seen him. He sat in the back of the classroom, watching as she taught 12 children about perspective and depth. Elena had been nervous at first, but she quickly lost herself in teaching, forgetting he was there. Until she looked up to find him watching her with an expression that made her heart stop. It wasn't the cold indifference she'd grown accustomed to. It was something else entirely, wonder, maybe, or recognition, as if he was seeing her truly for the first time. After class, Marcus helped her clean up, quietly washing paintbrushes while children said goodbye. Little Matteo, always the last to leave, tugged on Marcus's sleeve. "Are you Miss Elena's husband?" the boy asked. "I am," Marcus said, crouching down to Matteo's level. "You're lucky," Matteo said seriously. "Miss Elena is magic. She makes us believe in ourselves." After Matteo left, Marcus stood slowly, looking at Elena with something like pain in his eyes. "He's right. You are magic. And I've been too blind to see it." That night, they talked for hours in the penthouse, really talked for the first time since before their wedding. Marcus opened up about his childhood, about a father who'd valued profit over people, about building his empire as armor against vulnerability. Elena shared her own fears and dreams, her hurt over his rejection, her joy in teaching. "I was wrong," Marcus said finally, taking her hands in his. "About everything. I thought I could control every aspect of my life, including marriage. But you can't control love, Elena. You can only surrender to it. Are you saying you love me?" Elena's voice trembled. "I'm saying I'm falling. Hard and fast, and it terrifies me." He pulled her closer. "Stay. Please. Not in Portland, here with me. Let me spend the rest of my life making up for how I hurt you." Elena wanted to say yes. The word was right there, ready to spill out. But she'd spent too long finding herself to lose that person now. "I need to see more than words, Marcus. I need to know this isn't just fear of losing me to Daniel. Then let me show you." He kissed her again, but this time it was slow and tender, full of promise and apology. Elena melted into him, her hands sliding up his chest to his shoulders. Marcus lifted her, carrying her to the bedroom, their bedroom, finally, and laid her gently on the bed. "Let me worship you the way I should have on our wedding night," he whispered against her throat. What followed was tender and passionate, Marcus taking his time to learn her body, to discover what made her gasp and arch toward him. He treated her like she was precious, like she mattered more than anything else in the world. And when they finally came together, Elena felt tears slip down her temples, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of finally being seen, being cherished. Afterward, lying tangled together in the darkness, Marcus traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I love you," he said quietly. "I don't know when it happened or how, but I love you, Elena. And I'm asking you to give me a real chance to prove it." Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision ahead of her. Portland represented independence and opportunity. But Marcus, this vulnerable version of Marcus, represented possibility too, the chance that even broken things could be remade into something beautiful. "I'll think about it," she whispered. "But Marcus, I need you to understand something. I'm not giving up teaching. I'm not giving up being Elena Vasquez just to be Mrs. Dane. I wouldn't want you to," he said fiercely. "I fell in love with Elena Vasquez, the artist, the teacher, the woman who has more strength in her little finger than I have in my entire body. That's who I want. All of who you are."